In this video, I am going from zero to hero. I am going from never composing music in my life to trying to have at least something that I am proud of. And I'm going to show you how I'm doing it, whether it be the right way or not. Please keep in mind everything I say in this video is from a complete amateur's perspective, so it will have lots of most likely cringe-worthy mistakes. I know nothing about music theory or how music is professionally produced, so yeah, keep that in mind. So the first thing I learned you need to make music on a computer is a DAW, or a DAW, as I'm going to call it. This is a piece of software which you assemble your music in, which you can then synthesize and export. There are a few things I was looking for in my DAW. It needed to be easy to add sounds, such as downloadable sound font packs to use. It needed to be easy to use, and it also needed to have the basic piano roll to place notes in, since I have no instrument to record from, and it just looks like it makes sense. At first, I had heard great developers like Toby Fox use the software FL Studio to compose their soundtracks, so I started with that. All was going well. I had come up with my first melody and my first chords, and decided I was just going to try and export the project just to see what happened, but FL Studio had decided they didn't want me to do that, unless I gave them £70. Someone please let me know if I missed something, but it certainly didn't seem that I could export these files from FL Studio at all. For the next 4 hours I find myself trying out 3 or 4 different DAWs before eventually settling on Studio 1.5. It was free, it wasn't ugly, and it did everything I wanted it to do. Now we got that out of the way, we can go ahead and start actually making some music. I found this awesome tutorial by Pine Ninja Productions, who goes in much more detail into music theory and how to develop melodies and chords, as well as making sure they fit the themes of each character or setting. As well as this, in my game I'd like to have a particular melody or sort of theme repeat throughout much of the music as a leitmotif, as all the music nerds seem to call it. I've seen this used in other games such as Undertale or Pikuniku, and it definitely adds to the memorability and even nostalgicness of the soundtrack, so I'd definitely like to give that a try. So now it was my go. This was my first attempt at a song. This one was going to be my game's Crab Lord, which is the leader of my crab army, so I wanted to represent some more sinister yet silly themes. I sat down trying out different melodies and eventually came up something I was happy with, and started to try and make some chords that went with it, and then finally the bass line and some percussion. Here's the result. Yeah, it's not great, but also could be a lot worse. My main problem here is, while the melody, bass and the chords are okay, it just sounds weird. I think this is mostly a poor instrument choice, and was just a super weird melody and percussion. Even if it wasn't awful, it definitely wasn't good, nor the aesthetic I was looking for. Since this was my first attempt, I honestly wasn't expecting much, so I jotted down some notes and marched on to my second attempt. Composers and developers like Toby Fox and Eric Barone are a massive inspiration on the style of music I want to create. Sure, it will be a long time, if ever, that I actually create something on par with those pieces of music. However, I can certainly try, so for my second piece I decided to try and recreate the one, the only, Meglovania, but using my own melodies, beats and whatnot. Mostly just imitating its structure in hopes to learn from it. Here's what I got. I was actually really pleased with this. It of course helped that I didn't have to come up with it all by myself. I'd copied some of the chord progressions and came up with my own melodies, bassline and percussion. Once again, I found myself struggling to find the right sounds to give it the vibe I want. Some of the instruments just sound off, either too noisy or too smooth. Some of them sound too digital and others too much like analog instruments. The other thing I found myself struggling with is coming up with chords and bass lines that go with the melody, without just following the melody note for note. It's all too easy just to make chords do exactly what the melody does, just say on the offbeat or something. I imagine these are something I'll get better off with time, but overall I'm calling this one a success as it still sounds pretty good. I'm especially proud of the middle section where the melody changes. I think it goes quite nicely. Okay, I can't spend months learning music production without actually making some music for my game. I have a game to make with self-imposed deadlines and that game needs a soundtrack. So next up I decided to have a crack at making some ambient background themes, since much of my time will be spent out of combat, wandering around meeting people and making friends. My first attempt sounded something like this. Annoying. The melody is, well, really annoying, as are the chords and percussion. The bass is okay, but I need something more subtle. For this other attempt, I have taken some inspiration from the soundtrack of Piku Niku, which is a great game by the way, and I highly recommend it. It's on Game Pass. I'm very happy with the way this one sounds. It's much more lightweight. I think it will fit in the background of scenes rather easily. My main problem with it is it's finally not actually about the music, but how well will it actually fit the identity of my game. I need to do a lot of thinking about what I want my game to sound like, what will go and what won't. Either way, I believe I can at least adjust this song to fit whatever theme I come up with. The last type of music I wanted to give a try was a battle theme. I didn't really think much about what that meant at first and jumped straight into it. Bad idea, because this is what resulted of that. Yeah, this sounds like, well, it doesn't sound great. I think a part of that is suffering from the same problems as earlier, unable to pick the right sounds for the piece, but also just generally annoying chords and melodies. And by annoying, I mean it's repetitive, it doesn't seem to have much structure, and it certainly doesn't fit the theme or emotions that I want it to convey. I also hadn't quite realised the importance of percussion in battle themes. It really is the driving force, I think I've since learned. So for attempt 2, I decided that I wasn't ready to go in completely unsupported and took some inspiration from the piece Bone Trousel by Toby Fox. You'll notice a similar rhythm and bass line. I fiddled with some melodies until I got something I was happy with, and then fiddled with some chords and ended up with some sections I felt sounded really quite funky and I was very happy with. I stuck predominantly to retro sounds such as simple square and saw waves, something I think I'll do more often as it quite easily solves my issues of different sounds not working well together. And this is what I ended up with. Overall, I'm really pleased with this one. I think it sounds good. I'm really pleased with the section where the chord and melody sort of lift up and change a little bit, and I think they go well together. My musical journey has barely started. I'm yet to actually make a soundtrack or most of the components of it, but it's been certainly very fun over the last week or two learning the ropes of how music is produced, as well as some of the basic bits of theory that I might need for it. Thank you guys very much for watching. I will see you in the next video.